Director Olson.
Okay. Okay, I believe we are live streaming and we are getting ready to start our January MATC board meeting. So could I please call this meeting to order? And Gwen, can I please have a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Attendance.
Director Baker,
Here.
Director Case,
Here.
Director Diaz,
Here.
Director Foley,
Here.
Director Hamilton,
Here.
Director Mendieta Ramos,
Here.
Director Mays,
Here.
Director Olson,
Here.
Director Wilson.
Here. Present.
Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, Madam Chair, we are in compliance with the open meetings law.
Great, thank you. And it's good to see everybody, even though we're virtual again this month. Beth, our next up is our comments from the public. So have we received any requests from the public to speak tonight?
Yes, we have received requests from the public to speak.
Okay. And since we do have more than one person, just a reminder of our board policy, A0107, that no one person may speak more than once to an issue or for a period longer than 5 minutes, except upon the consent of a majority of the board. And no more than 3 people may be heard on the same side of an issue. So if someone is getting to that 5-minute mark, I will give notice and I will ask you to wrap it up if we get to that point of 5 minutes. And so just to make sure that we're in adherence to our board policy. So I will ask us to move on to the comments from the public then.
Yes, I would like to call Joanne Lang.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you about something very close to my heart, which is access by seniors to MATC classes. I am a retired MATC instructor who has been taking upholstery classes for a number of years. I have looked at section 36.27 1B of the Wisconsin state statutes about seniors auditing courses. It permits seniors to audit a course without paying an auditor's fee if the person is a resident of the state, space is available in the course, and the instructor approves. My concern is specifically for the upholstery course offered at MATC and possibly other courses such as sewing. It has been upholstery, an adult continuing education course, 400 level, for all the years that I've taken the course, but it is now listed as a 600 level course. According to the supervisor of the program that upholstery falls under, upholstery was moved to the 600 level to keep the college fiscally responsible and to enable the college to continue to offer the class. Previously, seniors attended upholstery courses tuition free, but they paid the materials fee of approximately $30 or $35. Plus now the class costs over $300 with a discounted price for seniors of $187.37, plus the ID fee and Stormer Pass of $750 for a total of $193.87. How does this benefit seniors who are on fixed income? Why its fiscal issues be on the backs of a few seniors who want to learn skills such as sewing or upholstery? What other classes that seniors love to take have had their cost raised by 600%, from $35 to $193.87. That's 600% increase. According to MATC's curriculum handbook, page 42, MATC's board of directors sets the fees to recover the college's expenses in offering these classes. Isn't a 600% increase in the cost of the upholstery class a bit exorbitant? I would ask you to consider this. Consider the seniors who love this class, as well as sewing and perhaps other classes. I don't know what other classes were affected by this. If you have any question, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you for addressing the board and sharing your concerns. The board is not allowed to respond to your matter in adherence to the state open meetings law. So Beth, who is our next public comment?
Chair Olson,
Yes?
can I request that that be put on the next agenda for discussion?
You can request that. Yes? Thank you.
Is Jennifer Wade in the meeting? Okay, if not, let's go to Dr. Michael Rosen. Dr. Rosen, you are on mute.
Myself? Yes, I can. Okay. Sure, a lot of people like me on mute, but in any case, as most of you know, my name is Michael Rosen. I taught economics at Milwaukee Area Technical College for 29 years and was the president of Local 212, the faculty union, for the last 17 years of my tenure. During the last year that I was employed at MATC, I worked with Dr. Sarah Goldrick-Robb, a national leader in the free college movement, to initiate the FAST Fund, a faculty-led fund that provides emergency assistance to MATC students. It has grown from a pilot assisting 26 students in its first year to providing assistance to 443 students last year. In response to that growth, I am excited to announce that we have just hired our first executive director, Liz Franchek, and I'm just here to introduce her tonight and tell you how pleased we are. Liz will introduce herself as far as her background and so forth. So if I can just turn my spot over to Liz, those are really all the comments I have to make tonight.
Good evening. Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, my name is Liz Franchek. I have a master's degree in Spanish literature and have been a part-time Spanish instructor at MATC for the past 10 years. During that time, I was also the business manager at Anodyne Coffee Roasting Company. And I've been working with the FAST Fund for over 2 years, which includes the entire pandemic. From research by Temple University's Hope Lab, as well as our experience at the FAST Fund, it is clear that the system for financing higher education is broken. Pell Grants that once paid 100% of the cost of attending two-year college now pay less than 60%. The gap is greatest for women of color, particularly those who are parents, like many of our MATC students. That is why we started the FAST Fund. We are pleased to report that a study of last year's participants that we authorized and that has been sent to all of you found that 93% of FAST Fund students graduated or are continuing their education. If you did not receive your copy, please let me know and we will get you one. Here is what a recent MATC grad, Corey Lee, a single father who worked full-time while pursuing his degree, wrote, quote, "As a new graduate of the MATC class of 2021, I would like to say that the FAST Fund has single-handedly saved my life financially and mentally in some of the most crucial times of need. I am thankful for a program full of individuals who actually care and view you as a human being and not just another student. The FAST Fund will forever be embedded in my journey as a true blessing, and I am proud to be an MATC alumni," end quote. Last fall, the FAST Fund spent $18,909 on books and supplies necessary for classes. We also spent $18,595 on paying MATC debts so students could enroll in the fall semester. We are pleased that MATC used American Rescue Plan funds to pay for student debt accrued during COVID, but the debt relief stopped in the spring of 2021, even though the pandemic did not. We know that the college is concerned about the failure of continuing students to enroll. A major reason that students stop attending is that they have debt and are not allowed to register without making a down payment on that debt and agreeing to a payment plan. We urge the administration to use its emergency funds to pay these continuing COVID-related debts. We can think of no better use of these funds. I would be happy to work with those in the administration who are in charge of allocating the student emergency funds in designing an appropriate debt relief program. Another concern that has been brought to our attention by a significant number of students applying to the FAST Fund is the student housing at Westtown Green. While this housing may be an option for single students, particularly those with parental support, it is not for students with families. Moreover, we want to make sure there is clear communication to our students about how payment at Westtown Green works. We have received many applications from Westtown Green students. Almost all are 18 or 19 years old, who are more than 2 months behind on their rent. The students were under the impression that their rent would be deducted from their financial aid package. A number of these students are on the women's basketball team and moved here from out of state. It is imperative that the college address this problem or risk losing these students. Going forward, we urge you to provide future student renters with clear information on how they are to pay their rent at Westtown Green. I look forward to working with all of you and thank you for your time.
Thank you for addressing the board and sharing your concerns. Beth, who is our next comment?
Jennifer Wade is in the meeting now.
Okay.
Jennifer has emailed me and says she's in the meeting, but on mute. And I've asked her to unmute. But Jennifer, if you can hear me, we still do not hear you. While we're waiting, we could go to Kevin Mulvenna.
Sure, glad to. Good evening, Board Chair Dr. Olson and members of the MATC District Board. Happy New Year and welcome to the spring semester of 2022. As always, I thank you for your service to our great college. As you know, I am Kevin Mulvenna, Executive Vice President of AFT Local 212, and I appear tonight representing that organization. Implementing guided pathways model during the time of COVID has been trying, to say the least. One of the most dramatic changes in the new model was the elimination of more than 20 associate deans, essential middle managers who work to schedule courses, supervise faculty, and work with students to resolve a myriad of issues. Those responsibilities have now been divided between lead faculty, department chairs, program chairs, and the like, who do course scheduling, approve prerequisite course waivers, etc., and the 7 pathway deans who are in most instances the pathway's only administrator to provide supervision as well as intervene in student complaints, personnel issues, and whatever else is thrown at them. I am here to tell you it's not working. It may seem strange for a union leader to speak up for administration, but ultimately our collective goal is defined by 2 quintessential words: student success. I've talked to some of the deans off the record, and they are burned out, frustrated, and at times have had to compose themselves during our conversations. In mid-November, they unanimously signed a document expressing their collective concerns and proposed solutions. I've been told there has been no substantive response. 2 deans have announced their resignations over the past 2 weeks. And if 2 of 7 are leaving, you can bet they all are looking for positions outside of MATC. Let me provide the most glaring example. Today's general education pathway, which comprises the previous schools of liberal arts and sciences and pre-college education, the largest schools before consolidation. Between those 2 schools, there were 2 deans and 8 to 10 associate deans. Today, for all those programs combined, there is only Dean Isa Haku and Director Dr. Valencia Brown. And let's be clear, it's not like we don't have enough administrators. I frequently point out that in 2004, there were 215 administrators and 597 full-time faculty. Today, there are 254 administrators and 511 full-time faculty. That's right, 86 less full-time faculty and 39 more administrators. And believe me, I could spend my entire 5 minutes railing on that issue alone. But the immediate problem is that we've lost those essential middle manager associate deans, pushing more work to lead faculty and their deans, neither of whom can keep up. It is clear that mistakes have been made in the implementation of guided pathways, and we must admit to those mistakes and commit to correcting them immediately. Because if what we're doing isn't working, then we should be trying anything and everything else. Our collective frustration is that when we speak up and ask for change, we end up going to a bunch of meetings, but real change doesn't come. Let me share a quote with you. I have given 110% over the last few years only to have issues swept under the carpet or blatantly ignored. I won't tell you who wrote that, but it could have come from a dean, a lead faculty, or a union leader. Here's another. The inefficiencies, incompetencies, reactiveness, poor communication, inability to make strategic decisions or create a compelling vision plague this institution. These are serious charges and uncomfortable for me to share. But the costs are too high not to speak up. We are losing good people, and not just among our deans. We're seeing high turnover in other departments as well, and as substantiated by the HR reports in your own agendas. So I am here to ask the board to take the responsibility seriously and delve into these problems, find their causes, and demand they be addressed. We ask that meaningful exit interviews take place of these top quality, dedicated administrators who are leaving in a format where they can share their concerns candidly. Thank you, and I hope that you and yours remain well.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvenna. Beth, do we have any others?
I'm going to ask one more time if Jennifer Wade is on the line. I'm not sure who's identified as iPhone. Jennifer? Okay, she says it's me. Okay, Jennifer, you can speak now. You're on mute if you are trying to speak.
Do we think it's a computer problem?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Welcome.
Holy crap. I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on. Okay, first of all, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. This is mostly regarding, well, it is regarding the COVID protocols in combination with the flexible work arrangement that was policy approval discussed last month. And my main concern is what was discussed in the meeting and how it would procedurally and how equity issues would be addressed. And I'm speaking, I have told other coworkers that I would speak on our behalf, so this is not just my concern. But in my particular department, it is very questionable and has been questioned why we are there full staff, full time, when we have a lack of students coming in at this time, when we should be staggering our shifts because we are kind of jammed into a small office. There's two groups of us jammed into a small office. Then with COVID protocols, they're just kind of contradicting what is stated, what's been stated. And my specific instance is I experienced symptoms last week. I told my supervisor, I went home, I got a PCR test on the way home. I tested negative. I got the results early the next morning. I informed my supervisor and the COVID team or whoever is responding to that. I discussed that I was negative, no fever, no whatever. They said, well, until you're symptom free. I said, I have a cold. I do not know one person that has ever had a cold for 24 hours, but maybe. Then I was continued to ask to stay home the rest of the week. However, because my department is not allowing a flexible work arrangement, I was told I had to use my own time and or unpaid or work from home. However, that's very subjective work from home because my supervisor does not believe that we can work from home. However, she supports the alternating schedules like we had in the past. This has happened to me once before. And I'm saying just me, but I am speaking on behalf of other people, where I had an exposure. I was asked if I was vaccinated. I said, yes, I was. I provided my thing. And I was told, well, you're vaccinated, you come in. I said, I'm not coming in until I know what my test results are because I do not want to put my coworkers at risk.
Jennifer,
So overall, yes.
I've been asked if you could identify yourself, that you are an employee.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes. And in what department? Thank you.
Oh, library. I am sorry. I didn't catch the directions. And this is the first time I'm talking, so I apologize. So anyways, it's just the inequities within the policy. It's very subjective. I've heard other people say, oh, my manager's great. They let us work from home. I understand you can't move the library to home, but there are duties within the college. And specifically if the college is asking us to take off and demanding we not come in for reasons due to COVID, that they provide alternate work for us instead of just, we have to use our own time or we have to go unpaid. I don't think that's fair, where other departments are freely able to use the flexible work schedule. And I have people that I know that I'm speaking on behalf of them that are very angry about this situation, including myself. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad we were able to get your phone to work and connect. Beth, do we have any other public comments tonight?
No, we do not.
Okay.
I have a question.
Director Wilson?
Yeah, and I'm gonna find out. I remember we used to do this at Fire and Police Commission, but there is the way that you can ask a question or something within this. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, when things come up in public comment that appear to me to be urgent, we got to wait a whole month. We got to put it on the next agenda. We got to wait and fly through the sky. This is, I'm going to find out what that was for you, Chair Olson, but Meanwhile, back at the ranch, when something comes up, what do we do? Just sit on it for a month, or what do we do?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. I think that we don't have to wait till our next board meeting. We can follow up with administration and get answers to the questions that we have and get that information out to board members. We do not need to only get the follow-up to any questions. So for example, when you had wanted some follow-up on that, we do not need to wait till the next board meeting. We can get more clarifying information on that, and that can be sent out to board members. So as far as action or something, if it's not noticed, we have to be careful on the agenda if something isn't noticed, but it doesn't mean that we have to sit and wait to get more information as board members. So that definitely can be something that we ask for in the meantime, as far as that goes. So I hope that helps a little bit. And then if you want to follow up, Director Wilson, with what it is that they're speaking of from your other meeting, I'm more than willing to hear what that is.
Okay, well, so what do if I want to know something, then I send it to, I guess we've always kind of said we can't say anything, so we'll do it another time. And sometimes because of our busy schedules, get lost in the shuffle. Mm-hmm. So tomorrow I should call Assistant Director Schultz, not director, but Assistant Secretary Schultz, right?
Sure, you could, or you could send an email to either her or me, and we could.
Okay, I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Yep, that sounds good. That way we have an idea, so we're making sure we get it. And sometimes in writing, it's a lot easier because multiple people may have follow-up information. So yep, thanks for that. And Director Baker, I see you have your hand up.
So Director Wilson and I are really not chatting with each other, but I was having a similar conversation in my own head. And would you like for me to save something for our last item on the agenda? If I'd like to have a conversation, I feel that we've had some very serious issues raised tonight that I do think should come before the board, and whether they could come before the board in one of our agenda items tonight. I think maybe some can, like through an HR report or something like that. But I think certainly this discussion of how we're implementing pathways, for instance, and the implications that's having on staffing for us, which is a pretty critical issue. Perhaps that deserves its own conversation. Should I make that as a suggestion at the end of the meeting for us to have a fuller conversation next month? Would that be appropriate?
Sure, I think that makes sense because we will have gone through the meeting and there might be some other things. So maybe collect that right now and maybe things get answered and maybe there's more questions. But I do think, that's the reason that we publicly notice items, because we would have to, if we're going to have a discussion and potentially take action, we do have to publicly notice that. But it doesn't mean that we could say, I want information about, or I want a future discussion about, and all of that. That absolutely is appropriate. So right now, if there were some things within the public comment that leave you with questions, why don't you jot those down? And at the end, if you feel like you still have those questions, you could present those as items for future discussion, or at least follow-up information, right? So I think maybe it just brought questions. And again, not having it as a discussion item, not having administration prepared to present on it, that's part of it. And so public comments are meant to bring questions out there, and obviously to be able to say, like, is there more to that or the other parts of it? So absolutely. So I would like to thank all of the people who did speak to us tonight and address us with some concerns that you have. And as previously stated, the board does not address or those matters at this moment, partly because of the state of Wisconsin open meetings law. So we cannot discuss any of those things because they were not publicly noticed, but it does not mean that we cannot follow up on them after the meeting. So thank you for that in the discussion. We are now going to move on to the approval of minutes from our regular board meeting on December 14th. Could I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
This is Director Foley. I move approval.
Is there a second?
Director Hamilton, second.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Hamilton to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting on December 14th. Does anybody have any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, I will take a voice vote on approval of those minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes from December 14th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next, we move on to the approval of the consent agenda items. A is the bills from December 2021. B is the financial report from December 2021, the human resources report, the procurement report, and the construction report. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda, please?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Director Baker. Do I have a second?
Director Foley, second.
Thank you. Are there any discussion or questions on any of the consent agenda items?
Yes, Chair Olson, I'd like to ask a few questions about the HR report if I could.
Sure.
So I was a little distressed when I saw some of our hiring numbers in terms of diversity. And I know that we're quite committed to our DEI goals and to diversifying our workforce. And while I think in some areas, I think we're doing better than others, I am particularly honing in on faculty, where we didn't hire a whole lot of full-time faculty, but we did hire, we hired some, 3 full-time faculty, of which 67% were white. And then we hired 25 part-time faculty where 64% were white. And I see part-time faculty as certainly one of those places that I think it gives us the opportunity to have a more diverse candidates who are coming in and teaching in our college, getting used to our college and seeing whether they like it and we like them. And it can be a place where we help to train full-time faculty. And so I'm looking for recruitment strategies, someone who can help me because this seems to fall short of our goals in trying to provide a more diverse faculty.
Thank you. I'm assuming that was directed to me, so I'll try to respond. So as you know, with the turnover report, we've had some turnover in human resources. We are finally staffed with our new talent acquisition manager, Angela Nixon. We also now have another full-time talent acquisition partner position, which means we can now reassign the different recruitments to allow some capacity to do some proactive sourcing and outreach to be able to fill these positions. We were not able to do that previously with the staffing model that we had. We were inundated with positions to fill. It was a lot of sit and get. We were posting and waiting for people to reply to our job offerings, and we really see the need to do more outreach. The numbers have been pretty consistent. You're right. They're not growing much, even with our additional efforts with target marketing and different things like that. So one of the strategies we've been talking about is to, again, do that proactive reaching out to the passive job seeker, reaching out to those individuals that might already work in industry, don't even know they might want to consider a part-time job in teaching, and really selling MATC that way. So that is the plan. But right now we're getting people trained and up to speed, but that's the goal to try to increase that faculty population.
Can I have one follow-up here?
Sure.
I really do appreciate that explanation. And I also really appreciate the strategy of the passive, I like that phrase, the passive job seeker. I think sometimes the person who isn't necessarily working, but looking, but knows what the opportunity could be,
Right.
be, a great candidate, especially given what we're looking for our faculty to teach. Will we continue to have openings this semester that we will be able to target and fill, seeing as how the semester is starting? Is this what we're going to see, or will we continue to have some openings that we could see some progress this semester?
That's the plan. We hope to be, our hiring slowed down. Like in December, we barely had any faculty hires. So I don't think the numbers are as reflective as they're going to be in the next few months, but that's the plan and that's the goal.
Director Olson?
Yes.
I have a quick question, if I may. Would it be too much work for you guys to provide us with the demographics of the applicants? within the hiring reports?
Yeah, I think so, but let me just double check. Let me look into that because NeoGov has some automated reports and then they have some that we would have to kind of customize. So are you referring to every single position that we have open, then the candidate demographics for those?
Maybe just in general, because that will help us give us an idea. I mean, perhaps we're not hiring a diverse group because they're not applying, not because we don't want to. So it'll be easier to understand that, well, we have a higher percentage of faculty applying and being hired that are that are not minorities. It could be because they're not applying. So
Yeah,
it'll just give us a little bit more clarity, I think.
that's a metric that we used to keep a while back, or I should say for my previous employer, I used to keep that metric, but the problem with it is that people have to self-disclose. So the numbers would fluctuate because some people reported their race, ethnicity, background, and some did not. So it's hard to gauge the true numbers.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's just that, you know, it gives some perspective so people don't automatically think that, hey, we're not hiring. And it could be that they're not applying. But yeah, it's
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I'll get to that.
Sorry, the HR in me just has to jump in. Can we segregate that to qualified candidates and not all applicants? Because all applicants can be a not actual reflective of the talent pool.
I like that.
Sorry, I just made that report much more complicated.
I mean,
I apologize.
I mean, so complicated.
Sorry.
No, we're gonna try. Listen, we will definitely try. I'll follow up with Beth to have her send what we have.
Thank you.
Yes, may I say something, please?
Absolutely.
This is Eva. I'm not sure if you can see me.
I do see you, Eva.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you a quick update in relation to faculty hiring. This past week, I met with the talent acquisition manager, Angie Nixon, to talk specifically about the strategy around increasing faculty diversity. So I have a part-time faculty working on a diversity fellows program currently as we speak that will be implemented beginning this summer to be able to work towards increasing faculty diversity. And we are also looking at not only the external pool, but we're looking at the internal pool at MATC. We have a lot of part-time adjuncts that would love to become full-time faculty members at MATC. So we want to make sure that we're looking with the internal folks, but we're also looking externally. So that's one big strategy that's coming up to really work and move the needle in this effort. The other one is how do we utilize our employee affinity groups in the promotion of diverse applicant pools. This past weekend as well, Angie and I worked very closely with Luna to promote a Spanish, English, customer service representative position to try out to see if the strategy could easily work out throughout social media. We also need to be mindful that now these days, everybody's on social media. So we are developing strategies that are focused internally, but then also focused externally. So just quick two things. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful. Any other questions, comments related to any of the consent agenda items? Thank you for everyone's contributions and questions. I think that was a helpful conversation. If not, I have a motion by Director Baker and second by Director Foley to approve the consent agenda items. I will take a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we will move on to our first board action item, which is Resolution F0215-01-22, which authorizes the sale of $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes, Series 2021-2022H of the Milwaukee Area Technical College District. Is there a motion?
Director Foley, move approval of the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Ooh, that was a tie. I'll give it to Dr. Mendiego Ramos on that. And I believe Mr. John Meehan is here tonight to talk with us about that.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much and good evening. I would like to walk through the sale results, very similar to what you've seen on past issues and based on actions of the board at the last meeting. With the initial resolution, we entered into the marketplace, had discussions with Moody's, and conducted the bid opening at 9:30 this morning. You'll see on the bid results page, we only had 2 bidders, which compared to the last sale, the Series G sale, we had 6 bidders. What you may have been hearing is that interest rates are going up. And as interest rates are going up, you have bidders who will be not necessarily, not selective, because you're a high credit, you're a AA1 credit, but selective in the sense that they don't want to take down inventory. They don't want to buy bonds if they're holding bonds, and as of the close of business, they're up 3 ticks from where they started at 9:30. That's not good for them. Therefore, they'll be careful to want to make sure they have going away orders as they're submitting bids. Now, saying all that, Fidelity Capital, familiar name, they won last month. The difference is last month, their true interest cost was a 0.63. So that's a significant jump in the interest rates that they bid. Like I said, part of it could be that they did not have it all sold, and so therefore they wanted to hedge their bets. The other part of it is the anticipation is that tomorrow morning the rates will be higher than they were this morning. The second place bidder was Huntington Securities. They also bid last month and they were 5th. So we'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to work the issues, but that's where we stand. As far as the issue itself, the 1.5 million, it's dated February 10th. That's when the funds will be transferred to MATC. The maturities of 23 through 26 on June 1st match the existing debt payments, as well as the interest payments are December and June. The first interest payment is this June 1 of 22. The AA1 is confirmed for these non-callable bonds, and as I mentioned, Fidelity Capital is a winner at 121. When you look, and I apologize on how the small type always appears on this, oh, that's so much better. You'll see on the left side all the orange, well, not that big, all the orange colored pages, issues has the average average of from 1.93 at beginning of the fiscal year to this issue was actually at a 258. Once again, we're seeing a rise up in interest rates. But when we've planned, when we work with your financing plan, we always cuffed it because we're using 4% going forward. As far as these individual maturities, 3 of the maturities were at 3%, 1 of the maturities was at 2%. So as an average at 258, I wouldn't be surprised if next month the average was 3%. So we'll continue to monitor that, but we do have the cushion in the interest rate planning. On the next few pages, we have the Moody's credit report. The rating itself hasn't changed. I would say there's some wordsmithing, which happens when we have a change in analyst. Natalie Kloss, who was our analyst for a number of years, Moody's reassigns analyst. We did have an introduction where Ben, the new analyst, Ben Van Meter, had a chance to speak with myself and Jeff, which is great. It's a natural process. The rating agencies are required to circulate their analyst through different regions. So Natalie is actually getting shipped to the Minneapolis, Minnesota region, and Ben's been shipped to the Wisconsin, Milwaukee region. So there's some little wording differences, but those are wordsmithing and don't run to the heart of the credit itself. All in all, we're pleased to have Fidelity Capital participate again. As I mentioned, they have bought your notes in the past, and we would recommend that you award the sale to Fidelity Capital Markets. Madam Chair, I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Meehan. Are there any questions for him regarding that sale or even the change in people from Moody's for our bond rating? Director Baker.
Yeah, just a quick one. Hi, Mr. Meehan. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you.
So you did say there were a few changes in wording. Just wordsmithing, can you just highlight really quickly if there's?
Oh, absolutely. It's on the, when you go to the first page of the Moody's credit report itself, towards the bottom, there's factor, which I always look at, factors that could lead to an upgrade and factors that could lead to a downgrade. This analyst with the first bullet point reads, substantial weakening of the tax base or resident income level. Resident income levels. The word substantial is new, which is a good thing, you know, that they added the word substantial to it. It just highlights it's got to be more than a change of the tax base. It has to be a substantial. In the bottom bullet point, it said increased leverage, which it used to read the growth in the district's debt or pension burden. And what they're trying to say is that if you get too leveraged, you have too much debt. But that's not the case here. And, you know, we're a long way from having that a concern. We have a very well-structured financing plan as to how much is taken off, how much is paid off, how quickly the debt's paid off. It's really not at risk. I think they just said increased as opposed to growth in. That's why I say that wordsmithing. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we did have a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Mendieta Ramos to approve resolution F0215-01-22, authorizing the sale of $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes series 2021-2022H of the Milwaukee Area Technical College. Gwen, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Certainly. Director Case.
Aye.
Director Diaz.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Wilson. Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Wilson.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will move on to resolution F0216-01-22, authorizing the issuance of 1.5 general obligation promissory note series 2021-2022I for the Milwaukee Area Technical College District. Do I have a motion?
Director
Move
Foley, I move
approval.
adoption of the resolution.
Okay, Director Wilson, was that a second then?
Yes.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second for resolution F0216-01-22. Is there any discussion or questions on this? Okay, this allows us to go out to market for our next meeting. Director Baker, do you have a question?
Nope. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I just didn't take it down from before. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I'm trying to manage the screen and making sure I'm catching all the hands that are popping up. So, okay. Mr. Hollow, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, this is, as you mentioned, we issue every month, so this is authorization for next month.
Okay, great. So I do have a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Wilson to approve resolution F0216-01-22 that authorizes the issuance of the $1.5 million promissory notes. And this is series 2021-2022I. Gwen, could you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Director Diaz.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Wilson.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
And Director Olson.
Aye. Thank you. We will now move on to
you very
resolution F01-22 to approve the apprenticeship program implementation for program titled Freight Forwarding Apprenticeship, which is 50-182-X. Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay. Thank Director Hamilton got that one in first. So I think Dr. Dakwar is going to be talking with us about this.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. So I'm seeking your approval for this apprenticeship program. I will share a couple of highlights. And I have Director David Polk with me here, and we'd be more than happy to address any questions that you may have at the end. So what I'd like you to know is this is not only offered here at MATC, already offered at MATC, but it's going to be the first in the nation. So we're really happy to be the first in the nation to offer this program. It follows a very highly effective and efficient model. Unlike previous models where we have to have a cohort to start an apprenticeship program, this one takes advantage of existing and current courses, and students can join in a very efficient and effective manner. It's highly flexible as well. And I'm happy to let you know that we have the first sponsor on board already waiting to bring some apprenticeship to MATC. With that said, you have the description of the program in your notes, and David and I will be more than happy to address any questions.
Great, thank you for that. Any questions about that? I know it was a little bit of a technicality more than a brand new piece of it there, but I want to make sure people who have questions are able to get those answered.
I'm afraid to raise my hand because I'll forget to take it down again. So I'm just going to.
Okay, Director Baker.
Sorry, I'm kind of chatting a lot today. If you could, if one of our presenters could just help me, when the EMSI data on this isn't real favorable. We have less jobs than other regions, and the job market has been decreasing in this area. Salaries are lower here than in other places. We have one company as a partner, and they're not even one of the top 20 that are listed in this. So the EMSI and our actions aren't exactly, I'm concerned that we train people and then they go someplace else. So maybe you guys can help me with that.
Yeah, thanks so much for that question. Let me take a crack at it and then I'll turn it over to David. So I think in the notes also, we acknowledge a potential growth of 8.7 in 2021, and we'll continue to see some growth. And in fact, I want to say the timing of this program couldn't be any better due to the COVID kind of, challenges and so on. And really the delays and the waiting time and the logistics and so on and so forth. This is so timely, and we think that growth will be even more. But I'll turn it over to the expert here. So David?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the question. One of the benefits of this program is as Dr. Dakwar alluded to, is that it's highly flexible and we're utilizing classes that we already run. So it isn't a very heavy lift for us to offer this apprenticeship. The other benefit is that the sponsor that we have waiting in the wings to offer this apprenticeship is a national company. They have a location right south of our Oak Creek campus, and they're so excited about this apprenticeship that they want to also push it nationally, in which we can't offer the apprenticeship nationally, but we can offer the classes nationally because both of the classes that are offered in this apprenticeship are offered online. So they would like to offer this nationally. And another quick note on this, the company that is waiting to pilot this is a Danish company. So they're going to also push it back overseas where apprenticeship is even more popular than the US, to see if this is an apprenticeship that they can push at their headquarters overseas. So I think it's another notch in the belt for MATC to be the first to pilot a program like this. And I think we will see growth based upon the concerns that Dr. Dakwar explained.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we will then move to take a vote from Director Wilson made the motion, and Director Hamilton seconded resolution F0217-01-22 to approve the apprenticeship program implementation for program titled Freight Forwarding Apprenticeship. So this will just be a voice vote. So all those in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Great. We're ready to move on to the next section of our agenda, which are the reports. And the first part is the chairperson's report. So I would like to first start out by welcoming all of our faculty and students to our second semester officially. And a couple announcements and things to share with board members and others. Our ACCT, which we know is the Association of Community College Trustees, of which we belong as board members, the National Legislative Summit is going to be held in person this year in Washington, D.C. I know some have attended that before, and it is February 6th through 9th, so it is quickly approaching. So if anyone is interested and has not let Gwen know, please do so. There is still time to sign up for that if you are interested in that, but it is in person. The next piece of it is the American Public Television Stations, the APTS Public Media Summit. And that's held February 28th and 29th, and it is virtual only this year. I know that Directors Wilson, Directors Case, and Foley have attended that in the past. And it normally is in Washington, D.C. And so normally that summit would have people visiting our legislators from Wisconsin there. And so those congressional visits, we obviously look at the funding to continue that for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. But it is virtual only. But if any directors are interested in attending that, please also let Gwen know. We still have some time to get in on that, and that one is virtual. Beth did send out a doodle poll to board members about our winter retreat based on the timing of that and where we were with cases and that. And we know that retreats work best in person. We decided to push that back a little bit. We think that we do our best work in a retreat when there's a lot of engagement and dialogue. So we have four board members that have completed that poll right now. So if you have not yet, if you could please go on and complete that so we could get a date on everybody's calendar. It does look like those who've completed all have one common date in alignment there, which is Friday, March 4th. So hopefully that works for other people so we can get everybody there on that. And I think that's all I have for my chairperson's report tonight. Next, I will be moving on to the president's report. So Dr. Martin.
Well, thanks, Chair Olson, board members, faculty, staff, and community. I'd like to update you on a few items since we last met. On December 17th, the college celebrated its first in-person commencement since COVID began. More than 600 students were eligible to graduate from associate degree, technical diploma, apprentice, and adult high school programs. Directors Olson, Case, Mendieta Ramos, and Mays were on hand to congratulate the graduates, so thank you for that. On January 18th, activist and scholar Dr. Angela Davis joined the college in a virtual conversation as part of the college's celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Davis reflected upon her involvement in our nation's quest for social justice and her work addressing incarceration and the criminalization of communities most affected by poverty and racial discrimination. She was just a wonderful addition to our DEI program. Thanks to Dr. Myra George, Eva Martinez-Paulus, Kyle Hayden, and other members of MATC's Black Student Union and the DEI Committee for bringing this renowned educator to our college. WTMJ Channel 4 television spotlighted the January 21st graduation of 25 students earning associate degrees through our Second Chance Pell program. I just wanted to say it also got national recognition, which was really great as well. In addition to instruction, this spring our Career Hub is providing workshops on career planning, resume building, and interview skills. Thank you to Dr. Mohammed Dakwar, Dr. Sadiq Isahaku, who's been a wonderful leader in this area, Jenny McGilligan, their teams, and to our staff and faculty for making this a really successful program. And finally, on behalf of our college, I'd like to offer my congratulations to our MATC District Board member, Director Citlali Mendieta Ramos, and her husband, Nicholas, who were recognized as Distinguished Mexicans Abroad by the Mexican Consulate. Thank you again for your contributions to our community, our college, and our students. And that concludes my report.
Well, congratulations. I think that's a wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would agree, Director Wilson. Congratulations. We do have a new student that joins us this semester. If you remember, our one last semester was leaving us to enter into four-year university and start his pre-service education program to become a teacher. And so I'm going to introduce Eric Zymans, who can introduce our new student life representative.
Thank you, Chairperson Olson. My name is Eric Zymans, the Director of Student Life, and thanks for allowing me to introduce our new student board rep, Patrick Casper. Patrick is on our district student government as well as an executive board member of his local SJ campus at Oak Creek. He's currently working on an associate's degree with a focus towards transfer and some really big things in his future. And I'm so excited that he's with us for this semester. But most importantly, what I'm most excited about is he's really passionate about making a difference for students at MATC. And so I hope you find his reports enlightening throughout the semester as he continues with us through these meetings. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Patrick.
Thank you, Director Zymans. Dr. Vicki Martin, members of the MATC District Board and Administration. I'm happy to be here today serving as the student board representative of district student government and representing the MATC student body. My name is Patrick Casper, first year student at MATC in the Associate of Science Transfer Program. Due to an election system issue that caused some students to not be able to access election ballots, student government officers on each campus had a delayed start at their respective campuses. As a result, I am new in my role on DSGA and still learning about the MATC student experience. My goal this semester is to learn more about and increase student involvement and engagement opportunities on all campuses. I do want to share a concern regarding faculty preparedness and high flex modalities and the use of technology such as Blackboard Ultra. From my experience, a faculty member shared that they only had a 1-hour training to prepare for this semester's high flex classes. While this faculty member is a great instructor, I do not believe that this is an adequate amount of training for them to successfully facilitate the online portion of the course. I believe that the faculty are giving their best effort, but I don't believe they are being given all of the resources needed to make these transitions successfully. Due to the unpredictable nature of public health right now, I'm looking forward to virtual events throughout February. I've already attended an online improv workshop event and it was very engaging and rewarding. In SGA, we are currently working with Student Life to promote these engagement activities and increase student knowledge about Campus Labs, the college's engagement online platform. In conclusion, I want to thank you all for your time and the opportunity to present these details and concerns from the perspective of a student at MATC. I am hopeful these items will be addressed in the most productive manner possible.
Thank you and welcome to the MATC board and student life reports. Next, we have our diversity, equity, and inclusion report with Eva Martinez-Paulas, who has already spoken once to us. So we'll wait for her to pop back on and present the DEI report.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. As I embark on my 10th month at MATC, I have been listening, learning, and taking action within my areas of influence. 2001 was a challenging year at many fronts, especially challenging for DEI work across the nation and at MATC. The pandemic added an extra layer to DEI work that many of us were not expecting. However, 2022 brings a sense of renewal for the work we must continue to do and work on together as a board, as a college, collectively, and individually. My report entails 5 key insights we've realized were needed to move us forward and create the actions necessary for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'd like to highlight those 5 key insights as my update. 1, in 2021, 1,300 full-time and part-time employees, mainly full-time employees, participated in the anti-bias workshop Managing a Transformative Culture. This foundational level workshop was needed to create a better understanding of how our own biases impact our work with colleagues and with students. The workshop was well received by our employees, and there is a demand to continue to expand opportunities for foundational knowledge and skills that address having productive conversations around race. In 2022, we will build on this work by providing anti-discrimination and harassment training in partnership with Human Resources. These training sessions help us build the skills and behaviors needed to continue to build on this culture of inclusion. While these workshops are not the end-all or be-all, they do help contribute to the much-needed interventions that help create a healthy and inclusive culture. I would like to thank VP L. Bonds for her partnership with the DEI office on this effort. Number 2, we continue to develop the DEI plan and the Office of DEI structure through the work of the President's DEI Task Force. The task force is on track and will be delivering the recommendations and DEI plan to the President and Cabinet mid-March. 3, creating employee affinity groups continue to build on the culture of inclusion, and also building on a sense of community support, and also the beautiful community that we already have at MATC. These 9 employee affinity groups are very energetic, and they also provide great opportunities for the MATC community. So for example, our largest employee affinity groups include our women's, interfaith, Latinx, and LGBTQ+ and allies. Through the DI grant, our goal is to develop our employee affinity groups so that they can become inclusion champions at the college. Number 4, we continue to partner with Human Resources at MATC pertaining to EEO, equal opportunity and harassment and non-discrimination policies and procedures, affirmative action plan, and Title IX. The last 6 months, we have been very focused on process improvement in this area, which focuses on systemic change. Number 5, we continue to create partnerships across the college to build on existing resources and identifying key opportunities. For example, through the HSI or Hispanic Serving Institution, we have partnered with a faculty member and a staff member to continue to expand these efforts within the academics and student services. The Climate and DI Committee at Oak Creek and West Dallas continue to impact the subcultures of those particular locations and also contribute to the overall culture at MATC. The DI Committee, led by Ms. Myra George in partnership with Black Student Council and former advisor, Mr. Kyle Hayden, joined efforts to bring Dr. Angela Davis. This was a big accomplishment. It's something that we should be celebrating at MATC. This concludes my report. I look forward to partnering with all of you and everyone at MATC to implement the DEI plan and keep our college moving forward for our students, our employees, and our colleagues. Thank you and have a good night. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions about that report or information shared about the activities that are going on around DEI? Okay, I do not see any, so thank you. Thank you for that report. Next. Oh, Dr. Martin, did you have something? Okay, you're spotlighted right now, so I don't know if I missed something. Sorry, I don't know what that meant. So next we do have our enrollment report by Sarah Adams, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, at least. And just want to share our enrollment where we're currently at. If we look at our first chart, this is just a snapshot of where we're at for all terms, our summer, our fall, and currently our spring semester. We have 3,173 FTEs that we've obtained as of Friday, the 21st, which is approximately 84.2%. And we're at 84.7% of our goal for the year of 8,800 FTE projected FTEs. Next slide, please. In the next slide, we wanted to show a comparison of our spring semesters, where we were at this particular point in time, and we used January 21st. And for spring 2020, we were at 79.6% of FTEs. And for spring 2021, we were at 70%. And currently we're at 84.2% for the spring 2022 semester. And it also lists what the budgeted goals were for each one of those semesters. Next slide. And we were asked to provide information to show how we're obtaining FTEs on a monthly basis. When we look at this slide, we can see that in November, and November is when we start each of our registrations for the spring semester. In spring 2021, we have about 2 weeks in November that we registered students, 2.5 weeks for registration. And those first 2 weeks, we received 1,141 FTEs in spring 2021. In spring 2022, we received 1,429. And in December, we added an additional 863 FTEs for the spring 2021 and an additional 850 FTEs for spring 2022. And the January total for spring 2021 is until the end of the month, January 31st. We added 969 for spring 2021, and we added 894 so far for January 2022. This cutoff was as of January 21st. So those are the numbers. And now Jeff is going to provide information about where we're at, the impact to revenue. So Jeff.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I've been asked to talk about the financial impact of the current enrollment picture. And as of last Friday, we are trending about 12% behind our goal. The goal is 8,800. And if that continues, we can anticipate, which we don't anticipate that to continue. We hopefully we'll get an uptick. But if that continues, we will end up with about 7,700 FTEs. That would mean that we would be about 1,100 FTEs below the goal. And just to put it in a financial perspective, every 100 FTEs is roughly equivalent to $571,000 in revenue. So when we look at that, if it can, the 1,100 equals about $6.3 million lost revenue compared to what we budgeted for. And I just wanted to remind you that we do have plans. We've had plans in place, and we are executing on these plans. Obviously, we're working to drive additional enrollment. We're working on discretionary spending. Discretionary spending is the non-wage, non-benefit area. So we're trying to see where we can find savings in that particular area. We're also prioritizing the filling of open positions, and we will utilize HERF funds to close any financial gaps that we may have. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
And we do have, currently we have 2 more enrollment periods. We have 12-week classes, which begin in February, and we have our second 8-week classes, which begin in March.
Any questions on the enrollment? So Dr. Adams, when we talk about those additional enrollment periods, are we anticipating a similar trend to what we're seeing for where we are with enrollment here as far as percentages compared to that? Or I guess I just don't know what the likelihood of, picking up people at 12 weeks or 8 weeks is, if we're seeing that, if that's realistic, or typically our jumps at semester are when we're seeing our biggest enrollment periods.
We normally see our biggest enrollment period now, coming into the beginning of the semester for the 16-week classes. But 12-week classes are kind of new for us offering. I think this is the second or perhaps third semester, and Mohammed, please correct me, third semester so that we've offered the 12-week classes. And the idea behind those classes, because we have a lot of students that come late, and they would start the 16-week classes late. So now if they're coming late, and we still have students coming in, they're able to start the classes from the beginning. So that's one of the reasons we have the 12-week classes. So we do anticipate picking up some numbers in those 12-week classes. And a lot of the 8-week classes are the second part, can be the second part to the first 8-week for some of our programs.
Okay. I knew that we had added that 12-week one, and I just was trying to remember what that is. So I know it's relatively new. So thank you for that.
Question.
Yes, Director Wilson.
Do we have students that should be enrolling in a class coming back that maybe aren't? And there's a reason, like they don't have the money or they owe money or some reason. I guess 12%. That's a lot. We definitely want it to be more, but are these new students we want, or are these students that just aren't coming back?
It's a combination. It's new students that we're enrolling. They're just now coming, just, applied recently, maybe within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we're working to get them enrolled in the 12-week classes. It's also our continuing students that have not registered again for the spring semester. And some of those students do have outstanding balances. So we are reaching out to those students. We're letting them know if there's other funding available, those kinds of things. But yes, we do have some continuing students that are not back because it could be funding, it could be perhaps their academic status, but we are reaching out to those students.
Okay, so when we're telling them of opportunities to get funding, could you give me like 1 or 2 of those places?
Well, some of the students, and Jeff probably can speak to this. I know we had the HER funds available for students last year. That really helped a lot of our students that had some outstanding balance. Although students have the option to use it for their balance, or they could take the money themselves. I think we had about perhaps 50% of those students to actually put it on their outstanding balances. So that was one method. And I believe that we're looking at that again for being able to help students. That's one of the main things that we have. And depending on why the student is not here, it really depends. A lot of our students, we looked at our numbers actually this morning, and we have a number of students that have not applied for financial aid. So we don't know if those students are eligible or not eligible. So we're doing a special campaign to reach out to those students to at least have them apply for financial aid so we can see if this is a funding possibility for them. And once they apply, then we'll know if, financial aid can help them to pay for their classes. So we're having workshops. We're doing communication to them. We're willing to help them, to sit down with them, to help them fill out their financial aid. So those are 2 of the biggest ways, of course, financial aid. And as other students have also been referred to, I know FAST funds that help some of our students come back also. But financial aid is a big one. And this morning when we looked at the list, we did have approximately 1,000 students that have not applied for financial aid that we are reaching out to. They've registered for classes. Some of them have registered, some of them have shown an interest, but we know the ones that have not applied for financial aid. I don't know, Jeff, if there was anything else that.
No, that's the one issue that baffles me is not applying for financial aid when they've received financial aid in the past. And we've had many sessions available to students to sign up and help them walk through the financial aid process. And for some reason, I just don't know, maybe it's because they're part-time and they have many things in their lives that are going on right now, work, family, kids, not sure what it is. I'm sure each one is unique, but one thing we know is part-time students, the reason why they are part-time is because they have something else going on in their life.
Thank you for that, but I know there what we as in the housing authority one year helped our residents who were students, and a lot of them were struggling with getting the right household income. So they just said, forget it, I'm not going to try to do it, depending on who else is in the household who has an income. So I'll check with the ones who are a part of our developments to make sure that they got theirs in.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So thank you for that, both Jeff and Sarah, for that report. And I think it's helpful. We're going to continue to talk about, the linkages between enrollment and the fiscal piece and what that means. I think that's very helpful, and the implications of that. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Next, I will call on Bodayan Zachary, who will give us the PBS General Manager's Report.
Well, good afternoon, or sorry, good evening, Chairperson Olson, MATC board members, Dr. Martin, faculty, public, members of the staff. There's a lot happening at Milwaukee PBS right now, and I'm going to share some of the top line activities. I'll begin with finding your roots. Next slide, please. One of America's favorite shows is Finding Your Roots with Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. The 8th season launched a few weeks ago, and I'm pleased to announce, as you can see here, that Milwaukee PBS is already seeing outstanding ratings for the series. Here's 2 slides worth noting. In this first one, please note that Milwaukee PBS has had the highest ratings for Finding Your Roots of any PBS station in the country. And in the next slide, please note that Milwaukee PBS ranked 6th in the country in overall ratings for that night. It's a great show if you haven't seen it. And Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. is really amazing. So now moving on to personnel matters. I'd like to go to the next slide. I'm happy to announce that Dale Polachek has been promoted to Chief Programming Officer. Dale will guide our on-air programming efforts, as well as working with local filmmakers and creatives on bringing their work to Milwaukee PBS. Dale has more than 37 years of television experience, including positions as Vice President of Programming and Promotion, Program Manager, Director of Promotion and Programming, and Associate Producer, just to name a few. Yesterday, moving on to the next slide, we welcomed Dan Mueller as Milwaukee PBS's new Chief Development Officer. In that position, he leads our development team and fundraising efforts. Dan's previous experience includes Marquette University, where he served as Director of Alumni Relations, and Vivint Health, formerly the AIDS Resource Center of Wisconsin, where he oversaw all private revenue fundraising as Chief Development Officer. While at Vivint, Mueller led the transformation of a statewide fundraising operation into a national fundraising office. Next slide, please. With the April 7th Milwaukee mayor's election coming up, I'm happy to announce that Milwaukee PBS is partnering with WWM 89.7 Milwaukee's NPR to present the 2 final candidates for mayor in an hour-long discussion special. The interviews will be conducted by 1 producer reporter from Milwaukee PBS and 1 from WWM, and our format will also feature a moderator to keep the production on track. The special will air on Channel 10 and at the same time on WWM on Thursday, March 31 from 7 to 8 p.m. Next slide, please. In other programming highlights, we're about to launch Milwaukee PBS's new podcast, which is hosted by 3 terrific producer reporters. The podcast is called Speaking Of, and it features Alexandria Mack from Black Nouveau, Mariano Avila from Adelante, and Scotty Lee Myers from 1036. Our talents are featured in this promotional video, so let's take a look, please.
Hey, what's up, Lexi?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Lexi.
I'm Alexandria Mack.
And I'm Scotty Lee Myers.
And I'm Mariano Avila.
And we're the hosts of Speaking Of, a podcast about interesting places, people, and stories that we may come across. Like your hometown that's grappling with race, right?
Yeah, who would ever thought that Brookfield, Wisconsin would see so much drama about a Black History Month resolution that was written by a group of high schoolers and an alderman known as Brookfield Beto. But anyways, Mariano, you're new here. You moved here from Michigan recently. Does Milwaukee feel like home yet?
It does, but in a different way than it might feel to Ron, who's Native American and has always been here, or to Miriam, who was recently resettled as an Afghan refugee just a few months ago. Your podcast, Lexi, has to do with building intergenerational wealth through home ownership, particularly in the Black community.
Yeah, let's check it out.
All right.
all of us are young. We are all Black developers. It was really an honor to be a part of the team because a lot of the times you just don't see us in these types of spaces. And this is one of the biggest developments in the state of Wisconsin right now.
Real estate is the foundation of the legacy 30-year-old developer Tia Cannon wants to build not just for herself, but for her 2 daughters through her company, ANC Real Estate.
And that's just one of the stories we'll be telling on our podcast, Speaking Of.
A podcast by Milwaukee PBS from us about you. It's journalism with a coffee break twist.
So look for Speaking Of wherever you get your podcasts or at milwaukeepbs.org.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up, Lex?
I'd like to end this portion of my report with a bittersweet tribute to Susan Loris, who was Executive Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. Susan and I collaborated nearly 4 years on the collaboration between Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra and Milwaukee PBS. On December 29th, Susan and I met to talk about this year's collaboration between our 2 organizations, or so we thought we were going to do one. Susan shared at that time with me heartwarming emails from around the country applauding the special that aired nationally on PBS. Sadly, she passed away unexpectedly a few days later. Her death is a loss to the community, and we will celebrate her when we produce the next MSO special. So this concludes the station report, and when and if you're ready, I'd like to turn to the next board agenda item, which is the topic of the Milwaukee PBS Master Control Operations.
Are there any questions or comments on the general manager's report before Bodan moves on to the next report?
Thank you. About a decade ago, under previous leadership at the station and at MATC, Milwaukee PBS entered into a partnership with 11 other PBS stations to create what we refer to as shared master control operation. That initiative was made possible with a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Originally, the move to Florida was intended to provide savings and cooperative decision-making, neither of which has worked as well as originally planned. In this upcoming and final year of the agreement with the master control operation in Florida, we're exploring other options, and one sees us moving the master control operation to Madison, where we would partner with the ECB, the Educational Communications Board of Wisconsin. The ECB features a state-of-the-art facility that handles the other PBS stations in the state of Wisconsin. Our engineering teams met recently, and we all feel confident in the potential of the operation. What also makes this appealing, and this is what you're seeing on the screen, is that our dollars would remain in the state of Wisconsin. And also, here's the existing Wisconsin statute that allows for this type of collaborations. So we'll have more on that soon. We're a year out, and I'm happy to answer any questions that there might be. Thank you.
Any questions related to that master control operations statement? I know we'll be getting more in the future, and this is sort of a heads up on that, so I appreciate that.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you. And now we're moving on to our legislative matters report, and I know that Remi Zelenkova is here to join us tonight to bring that to us.
Thank you, Director Olson. Good evening, board members. I will be using the MATC Legislative Task Force report document as the guiding document this evening. It is the most current update on legislative activities. We just met as a task force last week. I want to highlight several items in this report this evening and be available for any questions or comments. First, I want to give an overview of what the remainder of the legislative session looks like. We are wrapping up here in Madison. We expect the legislature to adjourn in March. I included the list of potential floor periods in the report this evening. The Senate and the Assembly are both on the floor this week. The next floor period will be next month, February. So we're rapidly coming to an end of the current session. I also included in the report for you, and I will not go into detail or highlight unless there are questions or comments, but I wanted to continue to include updates specific to redistricting, the election investigation, as well as just the elections for this coming November, as they're all very relevant in terms of how they are kind of dictating the political landscape, particularly in these next few months, and of course for the remainder of the year. And so I've included that information for you to review when you are able to. And again, I'm available for any questions or comments if individual board members would like more information in those particular areas. Regarding state legislation, I would like to highlight several items of interest. One item that we have not actually spent a lot of time talking about, but I think is really relevant, and this goes back, I think, to the Baird report earlier today, as we saw that interest rates in the bonding market move throughout the process. And there is legislation, AB 475, SB 448. This dictates and would require technical colleges to include the estimated interest rates if we were to go to referendum. This is problematic because it would be nearly impossible to provide accurate information. We know that financing plans can change, market conditions can change, and the bond market is very different. It is not like getting a mortgage for a home. The bill has been introduced in the past, and it eventually dies. It's moved a little bit more this session. I think the motivation behind it is, transparency, taxpayer, to taxpayers. But again, it's just not a workable requirement for technical colleges and others who would be required to provide this information. The bill is available to be scheduled on the floor. We've opposed it with others and are also hopeful some of the financial institutions will engage as well to voice their concerns in hopes that the bill doesn't move any further this session. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention this evening because it is a newer issue that we've not focused on in the past. COVID legislation continues to move through the process. Again, it's things we've seen before. I expect the governor would veto anything. There are a couple of different proposals. One would relate to mandated employer pay. If employers mandate isolation for health reasons, it would also, another bill would require that educational institutions, so the technical college system, as well as UW system, would have to reimburse tuition if organizations require vaccination to enroll. And then, we continue to see legislation on also allowing for natural immunity in addition to COVID tests or vaccine requirements. So a number of COVID related legislation continues to move through the process. Again, I would expect the governor would be looking at vetoing the legislation should it reach his desk. Also, a new item I wanted to bring to the board's attention was recently introduced as part of a larger law enforcement package that legislative Republicans have proposed. On the surface, I think it sounds very positive. It would provide additional funding for public safety programs at technical colleges. So law enforcement, for example, the funding, although would come from federal dollars that the governor has control of. So it would require the governor to use those dollars to support the bill as drafted. And in the past, we've seen the governor veto legislation like that. It's at his discretion how to spend those dollars, and he's vetoed legislation if the legislature has mandated how he spend those dollars. And then last, I would just like to end on a federal update. I don't have positive update. It's just complete gridlock at this point, specific to Build Back Better. And so no update there. And I don't have a timeline as to what will happen in Congress, of course. I think we're all seeing those headlines there. So with that, I will conclude my report. And if there are questions or comments, I'm happy to take those at this time.
I don't see any, Remy. So that being the case, thank you for that. And it's always interesting to me that we're getting ready to sort of wrap up a legislative session here as we think about that. It's very curious to me. So, but enough said.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You bet. We are ready to move on to the board monitoring portion of the agenda, and we have 2 items under there. The first item is the pathway presentation on the creative arts, design, and media. And so I'd like to call on Dean Brian Carlson.
Thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about the creative arts, design, and media academic and career pathway. And for those who recall, we presented on this pathway at the same time last year. So we're going to reintroduce you to the pathway, provide an overview of our students and what we're doing to support their success. So the slide you see here is a snapshot of our team. Our team directly supports the entire student experience, beginning with admissions through retention or staying on that path, staying in their classes, and finally graduation and of course transfer. Our student success liaison is the quarterback of our team, really triaging student support, connecting our students with our team and departments across the institution for day-to-day assistance. And since the pandemic, this support has also been through Zoom as well as in-person assistance here at the Milwaukee campus for this pathway. Our advisors, they aid students in registering classes, planning out their studies, and assisting them as they navigate their path. And our retention coach works with students to ensure that their non-academic needs are met as they stay in the classroom. They collaborate with the ombudsperson and various other services across the institution in that regard. And currently, our team delivers instruction and provides support to more than 900 students each semester. Next slide, please. So our mission with Creative Arts Design and Media Pathway is really to support student success and growth through the development of skills that support careers that unify our diverse community. Now, as part of this mission, we guide our students to develop rich portfolios of skills and experiences that prepare them for careers in the creative industries locally. Next slide, please. Now, our pathway has 12 different career pathways represented, and each of our programs have worked hard to develop our pathways from dual enrollment or dual credit through our curriculum and finally to 4-year transfer opportunities within arts disciplines at local, regional, and nationally based colleges and universities. Now, some highlights here over the past year, our pathway has observed a 12% growth in enrollments due to many initiatives that I'll discuss in a few moments. But most notably, our interior design program has seen a 46% enrollment growth since 2019. Our web and digital media design program has had a 21% enrollment growth since 2019. And our graphic design program has increased 13% since 2020, and audio production increased 34% since 2020. So really excited to get these students in our classes with utilizing our technology and on their path. Next slide, please. Now, we also have technical diplomas within our pathway. We have 9 out of our 12 associate degree programs have technical diplomas. You see those on the screen here. Students here earn a stackable credential as they work within their program to have an opportunity to get to work sooner or continuing their education within the associate degree work. Next slide, please. Now, here you can see your overall student demographics within the pathway. Now, compared to the college overall, we have a higher number of students who are enrolled, we have a similar number of students, who are enrolled full-time, but we also have students who are more younger than other pathways, typically, and a little less number of female students than we have across the college as a whole. Now, as a pathway as a whole, we have approximately 61% of our students are students of color, which is right in line with the college demographics for race and ethnicity as well. Next slide, please. Now, here's our breakdown of our spring pathway classes. And you see here, we have continued growth for online learning and hybrid options that continues to support student success. And the percentages you see here, which align to approximately 40% of our coursework being online and hybrid modalities, is really what we see as the future of our pathway. More of this type of instruction, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but then also hand in hand with a number of our in-person instruction that, of course, we need and that's critical to utilize the technology and services that we can to link our students to in the community. So next slide, please. And we have several goals in place over the next 3 years, and this is really what I want to highlight here. And so, as I mentioned, the first is really to increase online learning across our pathway. We have 4 programs out of the college's 27 entirely online programs that we currently offer entirely online, and we're continuing to grow that. Our expanding online, virtual and hybrid course offerings in most programs within our pathway within the next several years, as well as increasing our percentage of accelerated course offerings as well. That includes 8-week offerings and 12-week offerings as well. We're looking to do so by the next fall semester coming up here later in 2022. In addition, what we've learned from the pandemic is that, of course, decreasing the flexibility of offerings for our students is critical. Students are looking for that flexibility in relationship to their jobs or their other responsibilities outside of education. So we're looking to how we can increase hybrid and high flex course offerings for our students across our programs. Almost all of our programs in our pathway are working in some way, shape, or form within the next academic year to be able to do so, to be able to provide options for students to attend classes both in person and online, given that flexibility to the best that they possibly can and utilization of technology. We're also looking to expand arts-based educational opportunities, and this is with the growth of digital badge opportunities. We're looking actually developing in process right now, developing 12 different digital badges that will help increase just-in-time education for and training for our community. And we're also continuing to grow apprenticeship opportunities in partnership with David Polk, who you heard from earlier this evening. We have a partnership with Aurora Healthcare that we are growing an apprenticeship opportunity within culinary arts. We're also working within culinary arts to grow opportunities for correctional education with Milwaukee County Corrections, some great opportunities there. In addition, we're growing industry certifications. We are aligning our gaming and our animation programs to these types of certifications specifically to align for different opportunities with an industry-based exam opportunities. We've developed program maps, and these program maps help aid our faculty and staff in advising students, but also help students who choose to self-advise. And we do so by developing these program maps both for full-time and for part-time students as they guide through their program offerings. We are continuing to grow and develop our Spanish offerings. As you saw on the slide earlier, 17.2% of our students in our pathway are students who identify as Hispanic. And so we know we have a growing need to support their education for Spanish-speaking students, and as we continue to grow. We have several different digital badges, but also programs we're looking to launch in the coming year to 2 years that will align with this and in respective support of these individuals and goals towards our Hispanic Serving Institution initiative as well. Open educational resources, of course, are crucial in helping guide students with low cost or no cost resources. Currently, our pathway serves 38% of our sections support OER or open educational resources throughout our pathway, and we're looking to expand that, and we have a targeted goal of 4 to 5% per year, up to 65% by year 3, that we target to achieve for this area. So our faculty are actively working hard with the different folks at our institution to be able to make sure that's possible, so we can cut these costs for students and have opportunities so they can get resources in their hands early. And we're also looking to restructure programs. As we always do, we connect with our advisory committees to ensure that we are preparing students for careers and for transfer opportunities. And we continue to make sure that our curriculum is current and our outcomes are sound and in alignment with those opportunities. And finally, our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. We have partnered with the Greater Together organization, and we're working to promote racial and economic equity within the creative industries locally by allowing job opportunities with our diverse student population, as you saw on the slides earlier. So some really exciting things that we have within the years to come within the pathway. Already, some of this has already been kicked off, and great opportunities that we have that have helped us and guide us through some success in the current and years to come. So next slide. So that's what I have for my presentation. So thank you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Would you give me the percentage again of expanding resources? I think you said you wanted it to be up to 65. Where is it now?
Sure. Right now, for the open educational resources that we have, that we provide to students, we have currently 38% is within our pathway. Our goal is by year 3, so 3 years from now, that will be 65% as active goal throughout our classes and sections we offer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make one comment.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. I think this is an area that is so attractive to young people today from my experiences in Milwaukee Public Schools. And my son is a broadcast engineer and in video production. And it is amazing to me the growth and opportunities that have even increased in the course of the pandemic, frankly, and are just sort of changing the way that all of us see media and do media and all of that. So I'm just super excited that MATC is so concentrated in this area. Thank you for the work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Director Foley, was your hand up at some point?
Yes, it was. I just have a couple of questions around the edges. One of the things we keep hearing is that our ability to recruit students and the students' ability to succeed when they are members of minorities is highly dependent on the number of faculty members who, in the shorthand phrase, look like me. You showed us the numbers on the student composition. How are we doing on recruiting and retaining faculty members that are either Hispanic or Black American?
Sure. Well, I can say it's definitely been a active goal of our pathway, and it's something we work very closely with human resources on. I would be, I have to say that we've definitely had some challenges in those areas and making sure that we are not only recruiting in respective areas, but also that we're just receiving the qualified candidates. It's something that we're actively working on very closely with our human resources recruiter for all of our positions, whether they're full-time or part-time faculty. In the most recent positions that we have hired for faculty, especially full-time faculty, have been internal promotions where we've had part-time faculty become full-time faculty. So we're really excited about that. However, you're absolutely right, and there's avenues that we're actively working very closely with the human resources team on, because they're avenues that are relying directly into what you just talked about and really what we do with our diversity, equity, and inclusion aspects in the partnerships with the Greater Together organization. Is that we see that, and as we talked about, the diversity of the creative industries here locally, it's not very diverse. We know we have students, but we also need to have folks in the classrooms that can help them along that way and guide them through that as well. And so it's an active partnership that we're working on as part of that. That's one of our avenues, in addition to working closely with human resources as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you for that update.
Thank you.
And we do have one other item under this section, and that is with Dr. Josie Veal, our health and safety update and COVID risk mitigation strategies.
Good evening, everyone. We do have just a few slides. As these slides are coming up, I'll go ahead and get started. We ended our fall semester really looking at Omicron and what that variant, how that variant would impact the state nationally. As we approach December, as a college, we recommended or highly encouraged students and employees who were leaving for break. We encourage them to use rapid screening tools to complete screening tests prior to return on campus, so 3 days prior to return. Upon the start of our spring semester, again, looking at the trends within Milwaukee County, using our key indicators, the health and safety team did meet, and we met also with our president's cabinet, and these really are the updates as a result of that meeting. So these updates would have begun about the first week in January, so on or around January 7th. The recommendation to reduce the number of employees working in a shared space for 5 days, or essentially 1 week after 3 or more positive cases were reported to the COVID team. So that's very similar to a strategy that we also use in academics, and we've used that during the fall semester. So we're just implementing this now in spring semester with our non-academic departments. We have reviewed the shortened quarantine and isolation periods from the CDC and adapted what was applicable for our college based on the cases and the issues that we were seeing on campus. So those updates are actually effective today after review and just determining what the best plan would be for students and employees. Any meetings or gatherings or group events, the request was for them to be held virtually whenever possible. And that date we asked for that to be considered was up until the end of this month, so until January 31st. Managers were requested to consider rotational schedules to reduce the number of employees within a shared space when it was feasible. Effective on February 1st, we also wanted to upgrade our mask recommendations based on the national recommendations. So on campus, we really are encouraging the use of surgical or medical masks, KN95 mask, or a N95 mask. So we will update our signage on campus as well as ensure that the medical surgical masks are readily available to anyone coming within our coming on campus for any services or for classes. As well, we wanted to ensure we've had KN9 masks available on campus since the start of the pandemic, but we wanted to actually make them accessible within areas. And so we looked at prioritization of areas where there were high contact interactions with students, employees, or public. So that mask distribution is about 2 weeks into the works, and it seems to be going pretty well with the masks being distributed to those affected employee groups. Next slide, please. So this is just a repeat of the guidelines. For our academic departments, the deans as well as lead faculty considered options around blended, hybrid, virtual, or online class options, again, with the intent being until the end of January. Ongoing, there's always a strategy in place if there does need to be a shift, but again, our preliminary recommendations were for the month of January. And again, we follow the trends related to the surge as well as anticipated peak, our key indicators and what the county data looks like. Deans and all leaders also had the ability to flex staff schedules within pathway offices and then focus on remote work while keeping reduced staff to meet the needs of students or guests coming on campus during this time period. So those really are our updates as of today. Were there any questions?
This is a kind of a small piece, but I want to thank you for all the information. And I think that college is really stepping up on the mass distribution and all. I think it's great. I really do. And the flexibility that we're offering in classes. So a parent of a student reached out to me with a question about a class where the instructor is saying that the students should take off their masks in order to perform in this class. Do we have support that? Do we have guidelines around that?
So we do work with there are some teams, for instance, like culinary, where part of their classes, they may need to taste the foods or they may have periods where the mask is off. So we try to meet with those teams prior to the start of the semester to better understand their plans. But in general, we don't have any particular classes other than like specialized programs where the request would be for students to remove their mask. And I'll ask Dr. Dockwire as well. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not familiar with any programs other than maybe culinary, but they have a really good plan for how they do that. They leave the classroom, the students are not close together. It's the shortest amount of time possible. They have large enough rooms. So there are strategies in place, but other than that particular program, I wouldn't offhand know of any other programs.
This is music, and this is singing, and the instructor says it has to be in person.
I think Dr. Veal was exactly accurate. And Director Baker, if you have any specific information about this particular class, please, if you can connect with me offline, I'll be more than happy to follow up. So,
thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I don't see any other questions at this point. So
wait, I have a quick question.
Okay.
Sorry. And this might be a follow-up question. I know that under employees that are subject to OSHA requirements and N95 or KN95 are considered respirators and require actual fittings. So it wouldn't apply to students, but are you accounting for that for any employees that would be subject to those OSHA standards? And if you need to follow up, that's fine, but obviously that's a concern for employers.
So the KN95 masks that we have do not require fit tests. And they're not required to wear them, but they're highly encouraged related to the level of protection that is going to offer that individual. And we also have the option for employees, if for some reason they have medical issues where they cannot even wear the surgical or medical mask, we do have the opportunity for them to work with HR for accommodations, and they get fitted with a different type of mask.
Yeah, so it's not if they're required to, like in employment in situations where employees are subject to OSHA standards, in order to even be able to wear them, you have to have them sign a waiver or acknowledge a proper fitting of a KN95 or an N95. Because we actually I've seen that issue in industry where we were not allowed to let employees wear them unless they went through that, because OSHA considers it a respirator. So they just have to go through the proper fitting and or sign off saying that they understand. So that would just be a concern to make sure that we're following that in places where those employees would be subject to OSHA requirements.
Okay, I can follow up.
Thank you.
And we are, and just maybe I can just chime in there, Director Case. We are not subject to OSHA guidelines, so we will certainly look into it. That has been a topic of discussion, and based on the type of masks that we are distributing, fit testing would not be required for those. And again, we are subject to OSHA guidelines.
Because some of your apprentices that are going back to employers, or even some of your like maintenance staff and those types of things. Sure. That would be my concern. Thank you.
We'll look at that issue again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Veal, for that information and update. We are on to new business, and I am going to ask at this time if there is any new business. I know there was some conversations earlier on in the meeting, so I guess I would just ask that at this point if there was any follow-up on those.
Yeah, so if I may.
Sure.
So I think we had, in my notes, I've got 4 issues, and I don't think they all have to be big discussions. They could just be in the president's report next time or in one of the other reports. I think our student delegate raised the issue of whether our faculty have been given the opportunity to get necessary training and so just to let us know where we are on that in using some of the hybrid teaching tools. We had the issue, and I believe Director Wilson asked for this earlier, on seniors' access to classes. For some of my colleagues or some of the administration who has been here a long time, this reminded me of the jewelry program. I see a smile or two, yes. And so I think we have some history here, and we could see what our opportunities are. And then we did have the question of flexible work and how that is applied in different areas. Again, this could just be something that's clarified for the board. And then there was this discussion of where we are in the pathways implementation and the effect that that is having on sort of middle level management, as well as our teaching staff. So I took down those 4 issues that I think need to be followed up on with the board in one way or another.
Is that new business? New business. Can I just add one other thing? Is a short report of some kind on where we are with COVID. I know it changed so fast. Now everybody's mandated to wear a mask and you can't make anybody and you can't do this. But have we had any a large number of students or faculty, just something short and brief on where we are with it, because I'm really trying to keep up with this and it's really hard.
Director Wilson, are you talking about in addition to what Dr. Veal just shared with us, or maybe you could elaborate a little bit more what you're asking for?
No, I just, I appreciate everything she did. I just want to make sure that we continue to keep up because like I said, it changes every day. I mean, one of the things that I do appreciate is I know that even though I found out in a kind of a funny way that they got the good masks that they're asking everyone to wear, that they got them for the faculty. I don't know if they were for the students, but I do know that they were for the faculty, and I appreciate that. And I'm just saying, things that are going on within changing, that long as we just continue to try to keep up with them. And I'm not saying it's easy. I just want to make sure that we have a regular report on it.
Sure. I do know that I felt over the last month, I have received updates when the college has been making changes both to classes, to the mask distribution, and then tonight. So yeah, if there are things specific, maybe, prior to next month that Dr. Veal didn't cover tonight, I felt with her report and the updates and communication that went out to staff, I felt like I probably had more than I had in the past. So that was greatly appreciated knowing what that was. So sure. Yep.
Yes, I appreciate that too. And then one other thing,
sure.
Like all the masks and stuff, do we get dollars for that, or are we spending dollars? How are we paying for some of this stuff? Because those masks, I ordered some, they're dreadfully expensive.
Sure. Yeah, maybe we could ask as a follow-up just to talk about that cost, because I know that there are various funding and all of that stuff, and that's probably something that we'd want to talk about mitigation efforts as a whole and some of those costs. And I think that, whether it's through Jeff's presentation to us or what some of those are. So I appreciate the question. Yep. As a board, knowing what those, costs are that we didn't normally incur. So I did jot down, and I think Beth will have heard the items Director Baker shared. And again, getting the information in advance, and then if the board feels like there still needs to be a discussion or there isn't enough information there, then we could consider them for the February agenda. But if we can get that information and some follow-up, because I'm sure most of that is available and accessible, and then we can decide from there if we would like to have some additional conversation on it. Yep. So I appreciate that. Anybody else under new business? Okay, then I will move on to our future events and announcements. Most of these have been announced, but we do have our Technical College Boards Association Winter Quarterly Meeting, which is in person in Elkhart Lake at the Osthoff Resort, coming up the end of this week. The ACCT National Legislative Summit, again, if you want to go to that, February 6th through 9th, that is in person in Washington, D.C., please contact Gwen. We will have our next monthly meeting on February 22nd at 4 p.m. We will keep you updated on the status. Obviously, case data and all of that plays into that decision. And then the February 28th through March 1st is the Public Media Summit, and that will be virtual. Again, contact Gwen for that. So I would at this point entertain a motion to go into closed session. Director Case.
Do I have a thing I'm supposed to read?
It says you do.
Hold, please. I do not. Oh. Nope, I do not. I'm sorry.
If I had the state statutes memorized, I could give you it off the top of my
Right.
head. I can tell you need to make a motion to move into closed session per
Right,
state
I
statute.
know.
But I'm not having it in front of you. I don't know, maybe Chair Foley has all of those lovely state statutes memorized.
Right.
Under open meeting law.
I apologize. If you just give me a minute, I can get you the state statute citation that we can go into closed session to discuss.
Thank you.
Evaluation. So if you just give me a minute, I can look it up quickly and try to get that for you. But just if you want to, I don't know if board members need a quick break, and then we can, it's up to you. Otherwise, we can just sit here and I can try to pull that up.
Are you talking about section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes?
I think you are.
Oh, Director Hamilton comes through.
That would be the one.
Look at that. How about Director Hamilton makes that motion and then maybe Director Case can second it?
That would work.
Well, I would move that we go into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statute.
Director Foley, I second the motion.
Great. We have a motion and a second to convene into closed session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Great. So Beth will move us into a closed session breakout room, but let's take a 5-minute break before we do that. Because
Director Olson, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we do need a roll call vote and to go into closed session. So if we can just make a roll call vote, thank you.
Yep. Sorry, Gwen, can you take a roll call vote for us,
Oh,
please?
certainly. Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos, Director Mays, Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos, Director Mays.
Okay. I think I know that Director Mays needed to leave a little bit early, so I think she has left us and we'll figure out about Director Mendieta Ramos. So let us, we will get put into a closed session breakout room, but let us take, I have 6:10. Let us see if we can be back there at 6:17. How's that for preciseness? Okay, see you shortly.